Hey guys, welcome back. Today is a beautiful afternoon here in the garden, but boy, it is hot. It's starting to really heat up. Our plants are feeling it. I'm feeling it. You're probably feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. And if your garden is starting to feel a little bit tired, you are not alone. We're approaching that midsummer moment where your plants are really going to rely on you to give them a boost to make sure that they're going to keep blooming and keep looking good for you. And so today I wanted to show you guys exactly what I do in my garden to keep my plants and my cut flowers blooming and looking beautiful all the way through the end of summer and into the fall time. So we recently did a couple of July garden tours, so you got to see how things are looking in the front and in the back. And I am happy with most of the garden, but there are some things that will need our attention, and I want to get to them before they start looking a little bit rough. So let's start out in our beds and talk about some of the things that I like to deadhead and cut back right now, what I'm looking for. We'll also talk about fertilizing and what I like to do midsummer to some of our plants, and then we will move into the cut flower garden and some other spaces as well. Let's start out with some of our hydrangeas. I know a lot of you, if not all of you, probably have a hydrangea or two or more, several, I'm sure, in your garden, different varieties. We have a lot of panicles in our garden, and for the most part, they're doing good. We came in and we fertilized them. Oh gosh, what was it, like early spring? So we gave them plenty of food then, but now it's time to come back in and start fertilizing them and give them a little bit of a boost. So this really applies to all of your hydrangeas. If they're starting to look a little bit tired, if some of the leaves are turning yellow, or if they're putting on a lot of growth and maybe not as many flowers, it's probably a good time to come in and give them a good feeding. For the most part, all of our hydrangeas in the garden are doing well. However, these kind of took a little bit of a beating, and you can see that their flower heads are so heavy. So I want to fertilize them a little bit just to give them an extra boost and keep them strong throughout the whole season, especially because they will start fading into that creamy white and then that beautiful raspberry tone, which I love so much. So I'm going to come in through here and just sprinkle a little bit of fertilizer throughout these hydrangeas right here. So here's how I usually plan this out. Probably once a week, maybe once every other week now through the end of summertime, I'll come in and kind of do this maintenance, not fertilizing obviously, but I'll come in and just deadhead things and cut things back. So I just bring my cart with me. I get my snips, I get my watering can, my fertilizers, my liquid fertilizer, my pop-up bag. That way everything is here and we can just walk around the garden with my little cart of tricks, I guess. I don't know, my little helper here. And that really helps stay organized and helps things go by really fast. So for the hydrangeas, I am going to be using rose tone. A lot of gardeners like to use holly tone by Espoma. I've always used rose tone. And I will never, well, I don't want to say never, but it's just one of those things that I have really high success with. And I also like to hit my roses while we're out here. So rose tone is my go-to for hydrangeas. Keep it simple. I'm literally just going to sprinkle some fertilizer around the drip line of each plant. I measure with the heart, but there are instructions in the back of the bags. Okay, so just like that. And then because my knee is still a little bit sore, all I'm going to do is just kind of work that into the soil with my little scoop. Again, it's not about being precise right now. It's just about coming in here and just giving them a little bit of a boost to keep them going and keep them happy. And you can do this with all of your hydrangeas, especially the reblooming varieties. They will really benefit from that. This is also where I'll evaluate the plant. If there's any broken branches, like there's a broken branch right down here. So I'm just gonna cut that back. See? And look at how much better. I mean, you might not be able to see it that close, but it just looks way better. I will say fertilizing our hydrangeas kind of that midsummer mark really does help them continue blooming and looking beautiful and fresh and not so tired later on. So for me, it's worth coming out here and doing this. A lot of big established ones probably don't need it. And again, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to if there's any dieback or any yellowing leaves. That's definitely your sign to go out there and fertilize your hydrangeas. But for the most part, like most of ours do really well. But when I come in and I give them just like that little bit of a nudge, they will continue to look good all season long for us. The most important thing is to keep them watered, especially because it is warming up. And we obviously know hydrangeas are thirsty plants. So we want to make sure that we're giving them plenty of water so they don't tatter out or, you know, start kind of drooping and looking sad. So that is another tip. Make sure you keep your plants watered. And especially with these guys, like just when I think I've watered them enough, they're like, we need more. So I really stay on top of making sure that all of our plants are super happy, especially on the warmer days. So let's hit our roses next. Our roses are pretty heavy feeders. I am a little bit more heavy-handed with those and more frequently, not just midsummer, because again, our roses do require us to come in and feed them, especially if you want to keep them blooming and beautiful and strong. So I am pretty like, I ask a lot of my roses, so I make sure that I feed them so they can produce and deliver what I ask from them. And again, I just want to highlight that I don't fertilize our roses as often as I would like our annuals. But I do come in a little bit more frequently, maybe like every 3 weeks or so. If you over fertilize them, that could also have some adverse effects. So just keep that in mind. Next, we are going to be fertilizing our flowering perennials. So think about your salvias, your echinacea, nepeta, even coleus, things like that that are going to be a repeat bloomer for you. You want to make sure you come in and you give them a little bit of a boost. We're going to be using flower tone today because that is low in nitrogen but high in phosphorus and potassium, which is what your plants want to rebloom. Now, I've already fertilized most of our echinacea and some of our other flowering perennials in the garden, so I will go ahead and just finish up and wrap up fertilizing the watermelon. I cannot forget because I just told you guys about it. The watermelon echinacea right here under our crabapple. They are still looking good, so I'm not going to cut them back quite yet, but I am going to give them the fertilizer. That way they can start uptaking that energy so they'll have plenty of food to put on another show for us. So here they are, and you can tell they're starting to fade. So I'll probably come in the next couple of days and just cut these back, but I'm just going to come in here with a good scoop of flower tone and fertilize everybody. And although I'm not going to cut everything back quite yet, we can come in here and start editing some things out. So things like this that are starting to really fade quite a bit, we can start cleaning up these plants just to make sure they look good. So I usually follow, let's see, where's a good one? Here's a good example. You can see this bloom is starting to be a little bit spent. So I will cut it all the way back down to where we have this new growth right here. So that will come up and bloom. There's also some right over here, new buds. So we'll just cut this back, although this one still looks good. This one also looks okay, but we can come in and clean out some of the others. Things like salvia, I will just shear all the way back. But with our echinacea, I'm a little bit more mindful of what we're cutting and what we're leaving. Do you see how much better that looks already? Again, it's not about being perfect. It's about coming in, editing some of the old things out just to brighten things up a bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to get every single bloom at one time. But if you stay on top of it, it's less work for you to do. And again, it allows your plant to start putting on more growth. So we have more blooms to enjoy late summer and into the fall time. Oh, Nelly, it's getting hot out here. It is getting hot. Anyways, the same thing goes for your roses. I think roses are beautiful, right? We all love our roses. I don't think they're the most beautiful plant in terms of their structure and what they look like, because we buy roses for the flowers, right? But there is a way to keep them tidy, and that's by deadheading and cutting back your roses throughout the whole growing season. So I try to stay on top of coming in and just cutting out as many spent blooms as I can. Oh my gosh, there's a giant spider in there. Ooh, I might not cut that one back yet, or we might flick it out and then cut it back. But anyways, it's also nice to come in here, and you'll kind of pick this up with your roses. But if you can come in as they're starting to drop their petals, just before they like all drop their petals, come in and cut that rose off, because it will save you so much time from having to pick up all of those petals on the floor. And I don't know about you, but that's just one thing that I don't love about roses, is when I start to see the petals all over the floor. I think it can be a little bit romantic, but the little OCD in me is like, oh, I just want to pick all of those up. So anyways, so that is also something that I try to stay on top of. It doesn't always work, but if I can catch my roses right at the end, right before they're going to drop everything, then I will come in and cut it back before it makes a bigger mess. But even if it does drop, that's fine. We just want to come in and cut right above a set of 5 leaves. Anyways, that way you don't have this on your rose bush, and it just looks a lot neater and a lot tidier. And most importantly, it benefits your plant, which is the #1 goal for keeping our gardens looking beautiful and blooming all the way until late summer and fall time. All right, I'm gonna risk my life because the spider is there, but I'm gonna risk my life for you guys. Oh gosh, there it goes. Anyways, here's one that is about to head out, and I can see that the center has turned brown, and that's because the bumblebees already got to it. So once the bumblebees gets to the center of your flowers, and especially like your roses, it starts to turn brown, we know that these are going to start falling right off. So I can just start pulling that off. We're just at the cusp of it all falling off the plant. There we go. That looks better. So those are the things that I stay on top of most right now this time of year, is just deadheading and cutting things back in our flower beds. Now the same principles apply to your containers. I know a lot of us have beautiful containers right now, and it could be, I guess it can get away from us to take care of our containers, because I think when we plant them and we set them in place, we admire them, we enjoy them, they're beautiful, they're doing their own thing. But as the season progresses, I know a lot of us tend to we kind of forget about it. But if you just come in and you're a little bit diligent every week just to cut things back that are spent, make sure you're fertilizing your containers, because again, those plants don't have a way to get nutrients. You have to give them the nutrients that they need, especially in our summer containers where a lot of us are using annuals. So if your containers are not doing well, make sure you're staying on top of the fertilizing, the deadheading if you have plants that require deadheading, pruning things back, that way things can start flushing out new blooms. There are several fertilizers that you can use for your containers. I'll show you guys the one that I've been using this year for our containers, just because it's the same one that I use for our flowers. So it makes my life a little bit easier, but there's so many that you can buy on the market. And there are a lot of synthetic fertilizers out there too that work. Proven Warner's has a really popular one. It's a water soluble fertilizer, and a lot of people will fertilize their containers at least once a week. Sometimes more, depending on how big they are or how much growth you want out of your container. So with annuals, you do have a lot of leeway in terms of how much fertilizer you can use throughout the season. So here's a container that we planted together not that long ago, and I'm just going to clean some things up just to give it a little refresh. We'll cut back some of these zinnias as well. These are looking kind of tired. Some of these are short, so I'm just going to cut them where they're starting to branch off, just like that. And you do sacrifice some blooms temporarily, but that's fine. They're going to start putting on size here real quick. I can already see more blooms forming on this plant. All right, that looks better. You guys, it is so hot out here. Oh My gosh, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea to do this now, but my hair, oh my gosh, I'm a hot mess. So now that we fertilized the plants that we needed to fertilize today, you want to make sure that you water them in. We have drip irrigation all over our garden. However, when I apply granular fertilizer, I will come in and just water it in with a hose. So although our drip irrigation will be turned on, I'll still come in with the hose and just overhead water everything. All right, most of our annuals have been fertilized earlier this week, but I have one more area to fertilize, so I thought we could do that together. This is the liquid fertilizer I've been reaching for this year. This is just called Bloom, Super Bloom Booster. And the NPK on this one is 131. Now for our cut flower garden, I also like to use a product called More Bloom. I haven't used that one yet this season. However, it really was like my go-to. Ever since switching off to this one, I've noticed that the plants are not putting on like a ton of size in terms of like our dahlias and our zinnias, but they're putting on a lot of blooms, and that's what I want. So in the beginning, I did come in with a little bit of nitrogen and just gave some nitrogen to our dahlias. So if your dahlias are stalling, like we still have some that are really taking their time, and I'm like, come on ladies, let's go. So you can come in with something that has a little bit higher nitrogen. In general, they don't really need it. But if they're like taking their sweet time, then I'll come in and give them a good nitrogen feed. You can use manure, you can use alfalfa, you can use bone meal, any of those things, anything that's really high in nitrogen, you can go ahead and fertilize your dahlias once with that. And that should get them to start growing if they're still taking their sweet time. Like a lot of ours are starting to bloom. However, there are some that are like barely popping out. They're like, hi, like it's been months. What are you doing? So there's definitely a big difference on our dahlias right now. But for the most part, they've been enjoying bloom, and you're going to use half a cap per quart. We have 13 liters, or yeah, 13 liters, 13 quarts. So I'm going to use 6.5, maybe 7, just to round up. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Ugh. I'm stingy, come on. 4. You can also use fish emulsion, bat guano. Any of those things are really popular in the flower farming community. A lot of flower farmers will actually spray their flowers with some of these products. What was that, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this you're supposed to use every 2 to 4 weeks. However, I've been using this once a week on our annuals. And then because I wanted our dahlias to really like kickstart, I started using this, what was it, every week for a couple weeks? Now I'm maybe down to once every 2 weeks or so. With some of the ones that are still taking a while, I'll come in and give them, I'll kind of just do like a little touch up around those. But yeah, this has been working really well for us. I'm just gonna use my fancy stirring stick here and mix that up. It should mix with the pressure of the water. There's a little breeze right now and it feels so lovely. It was just really warm today, my goodness. So again, I've already fertilized our cut flowers this week, but basically what I do is I just come through, just quickly do this here real quick. I just come through and water and feed everybody like this. That's it. These are the annuals I want to fertilize over here. Now because these roses here get out a lot of runoff from fertilizing the annuals, I don't really feed these too much. Let's move into the cut flower garden, starting here with the dahlias. Now I've done very detailed videos that I'll link down below in the description box for you guys, But if you want to keep your dahlias and your flowers flowering and looking beautiful all the way until fall time, especially your dahlias, because they really shine in the fall time. So it's important to deadhead and cut them back. So this might hurt you a little bit, but you might think, let's see, what's a good one to do? You might think, okay, here are 2 spent ones. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right there. Boom. No, I'm actually gonna go deep all the way over here where it's starting to fork off and these new buds are coming in. That way I'm going to get a nice, beautiful long stem. Now, of course, this dahlia is already faded and it's not going to last very long. And I am sacrificing a little side shoot there, which is fine because this is going to signal the plant now to branch even more and produce more flowers. Now, this one has 2 side buds and I could go in and just cut it all the way down again. But because there are 2 good sized ones, I'm just gonna cut it right there. So that's the gist of it, of deadheading and cutting back your dahlias. But if you want more details, let me know and I can always do another tutorial for you guys. But it is hard to cut your dahlias, I get it. And it's hard to sacrifice some of those side blooms. But if your goal is to get a bigger plant with longer stems, you have to cut deep. That's just the name of the game. All right, the same is true for all of our other flowers, like our phlox here. These are looking a little bit tired. So we will cut these back and they will continue flushing out beautiful blooms for us. Gosh, I've been enjoying these so much this year, just making some pretty arrangements with them. All right, those look a lot better. Some of our other flowers here are looking good, so I don't really need to come in and do much right now with those. But our zinnias can be deadheaded. And I know this is probably, again, one of those things that's hard to do, but I promise you, the more you deadhead them, the more blooms you're going to get. So let's come in here and look at some that are looking really bad and in bad shape. In fact, I actually have to harvest a bunch of these probably tomorrow, I'm thinking. Let's see, yeah, probably tomorrow I'll come in and harvest a lot of them. So we won't take too many away, but of course the bees are resting. Look at them. Look at these lazy girls. They're just, well, they're not lazy. They've been working all day, but they just sleep on the zinnias. But if I come here, you can see that these are pretty tired. They're starting to fade. The tips are starting to brown. So I just cut that back. And like the dahlias, I just cut right where they start to branch off, but just make sure you're coming in and you're cutting back your zinnias just to make sure that they're going to keep blooming for you. And I know it hurts a little bit, but we just gotta do it. It's part of it. Found a little dead bumble, so I'm just gonna bury her. Poor thing. All right, now we can continue. All right. Yeah, these are looking pretty tired. Oh, there's a bee in there, so I'll leave that one alone. All right, those look much better. Now, the last task that I have for you to do to make sure your garden is going to continuously bloom and look beautiful all the way into late summer and fall time is check your plants for pests. It's one of those things that I think we often forget about, but when you have pest pressure, it can really damage your plants and slow them down. So the quicker you can get on top of it, the better it's going to be. I know a lot of gardeners will use things like BT, Captain Jack's as a preventative measure. Thank goodness we don't have issues with things like budworm. I'm crossing my fingers because now that I've said it, I know it's going to pop up in my garden. But we do have pressure with thrips, we do have aphids, we do have cucumber beetles, and all of those things will impact our plants. So it's my job again to come out every week and just stay on top of it. Check on everybody, see how everybody's doing. We use a lot of beneficials in our garden and that has helped tremendously. And there's also some really good sprays out there that you can use for some things. So staying on top of that, it's something that you probably don't think about often, but that will definitely make a difference in how your garden and your plants are doing all the way throughout summertime and into fall time. So here's an example of some damage from a cucumber beetle. You can see that the petals have been chewed. It could also be earwig, but I know for this specific one, it was a cucumber beetle because I crushed 3 that were in here. And unfortunately, I don't use any sprays for those. I don't think I've used anything that's been super effective when it comes to cucumber beetles. I just manually squish them. You can flick them into a bucket of soapy water, but really I come in with a glove and I just try to grab them and squish them. But you can see if I allow them to continue being a pest in my garden, especially with our dahlias, they're just going to chew up our blooms and impact the way our flowers look. So we don't want that. We want to stay on top of it to make sure that we keep the population of the cucumber beetles down as much as we can. This is also a good time to assess your plants and see if anything is showing any signs of disease or viruses. And that goes for all of your plants in your garden, because if things are showing signs of disease, say like, oh, I don't know, powdery mildew. If you don't get on top of that earlier on, it's going to become a bigger problem for you, and it's definitely going to slow down your plants quite a bit. So that is another key thing to do to keep your garden blooming all season long, is make sure you're staying on top of anything that's diseased or virus or anything like that. All right, guys, that is what I do to keep my garden looking beautiful and making sure that everything is blooming all summer long and into the fall time. Now, don't get overwhelmed by doing these tasks every day. I carve out like 30 minutes to an hour every other day or once a week at least, and I come out and we do the fertilizing, we prune things back, we deadhead everything, and that really makes such a big difference. If you're feeling a bit of the burnout this time of year, I totally get it. It's so natural. Don't think you're doing something wrong. Why do you feel the burnout? Your garden probably feels the burnout a little bit. That's okay, that's normal. But as long as you come in and you can make time to do these little tasks, it will make a world of a difference. I promise you, I promise you. I have been the type of person, I like to go, go, go. I don't like to stop. But I also find myself when I'm overdoing it too much in the garden, it takes away the fun. But I'm also that type of person that loves it so much that it's never too much for me. I could literally be out here every single day doing this and I'd be so happy about it. But keep in mind, if you do just a little bit here and there, it's not going to feel as overwhelming. And just remember, your plants are relying on you right now to just give them a boost so they can continue blooming all season long and make you happy. So it's a win-win for the both of you. Anyways, I hope these tips and tricks help you guys in your garden. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me today in my garden and getting some of these tasks done. And I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye-bye.